Good day, everybody. Welcome back. This is Sir Marlo Salido. I am your teacher for Research in Daily Life 2. This time, we will be talking about learning from others and reviewing the literature. So for the past weeks, we've tried our best to master the concept of inquiries and creating your research title. This time, I will be teaching you how to find the right sources and how to write your review of related literature. So this topic will be divided into two. We will be focusing first on how to find the good articles that would be good references as well for your research, and also we'll be talking about the proper citation of these references. And I will be teaching you as well the ethics, okay, of finding the right topics or right articles for your research. For the second part, we will be talking about the building or crafting of your conceptual framework. So as you could see on the screen, this is actually the summary of what we're going to talk about for the two sessions that we'll be having for chapter 3. We will begin with the discussion of the importance of doing the review of related literature. So basically, the reason why we do review of related literature, it's because we wanted to identify the gaps in the literature, and sometimes this could be a great basis for a research study. Also, the reason why we do review of related literature, it's because this is going to be the foundation or the basis of your conceptual framework, which is actually similar to a master plan of the study. So prior to the creation of your research paper, it's really important that you have a conceptual framework that will help the readers be guided what you're going to study for this research or for this particular research. And this conceptual framework, it should define the variable of your study, and it should also be the basis for your hypothesis. In other words, you cannot create a hypothesis without your conceptual framework. At the same time, in this particular conceptual framework, we get to have an idea of what variables are you trying to find a relationship with. What's your independent variable and what is your dependent variable. So going back sa taas, the review of related literature, we actually require you to use common citation styles. We have 3 there. We have American Psychological Association or the APA style, Modern Languages Association MLA style, and the Chicago Manual of Style. But in this particular research that we're doing for your academic year, we'll just simply focus on doing the APA style or the American Psychological Association. So what are our objectives for this particular week? I want you to select relevant literature after this, okay? Cite related literature using a standard style. Example would be APA, MLA, and Chicago Manual of Style. Again, we'll be giving you a discussion of these 3 particular styles of citation. However, we will just be simply focusing on APA. Third one is synthesize information from relevant literature. Fourth is write a coherent review of related literature. And lastly, follow ethical standards in writing the related literature. So let us begin by discussing to you the definition of literature review. So literature review is the process of obtaining relevant and important information or materials related to the research topic. It involves systematic identification, location, and analysis of documents containing the information related to the topic. So we have to put an emphasis on the word systematic identification, location, and analysis of documents, in which we will be learning in the succeeding slides. Also, review of related literature places the study in the context of all the available information related to the topic. It helps you explain how the research problem to be investigated fits into the larger picture, and it gives the reader the updated discourses in the discipline of your topic. That's the reason why it's really important that prior to doing or creating your research title, there should be a backup of related literatures that could support your claims towards your research topic. So again, it's nice to have like a minimum of 10 literatures that could be your source for your research topic. So prior to creating your research topic, you should have at least 10 resources that would help you defend your research title. lets you identify what has already been done so as not to replicate other researchers' work. Again, yes, it could be a great inspiration for you to have a research title out of the available references or resources. However, we have to avoid the replication of the study. Sometimes, pro tip, in any case that like a research is particularly being done on a particular context, then probably you can get a part of that research, okay, and then make it as your research topic and trying to change your context for that particular study and make it as your reference. That could be a tip when making your research topic, okay? It establishes your credibility as a researcher and the study itself because you have shown a comprehensive review that you have demonstrated that mastery of your topic. So what are the steps in doing a literature review? Earlier in the technical definition of review of related literature, it starts with the systematic identification, right? So we will now begin discussing the individual steps for creating your literature review. First one is you have to identify key terms to use in your research or search for literature. Second, locate the literature about a topic by consulting several types of materials and databases. Third, evaluate and select the literature critically for your review. And fourth, organize the literature you have selected. And fifth, write the literature review. Sometimes the best sources or resources for related literature are researches as well or journals with complete title, pages, subtitle, the name of the author. Those are the preferred sources for your research, okay? So as much as possible, try to look for information or for sources from journals. So later I'll be teaching you as well how to find those journals. So first things first, you have to identify the key terms. So usually what we do is we just simply search on Google, right? However, the disadvantage of using Google as a search engine is that it's a mix of various information. It could be from verified sources and unverified sources. Now, did you know that there's this particular search engine made by Google that is just perfectly fit for researchers? So that is what you call Google Scholar. So for you to be able to go to Google Scholar, just simply type in the URL box scholar.google.com. So the moment you have that, you will be seeing the Google Scholar word, and that's the time that you can search, okay, for key terms. So we'll just be talking about key terms here. So for example, if we're going to talk about social media, so just simply type social media there, and a various list of researches will come out from the moment you press enter or from the moment you press the search button. So that is the perfect avenue or platform for researchers like you to go to. So scholar.google.com. There are actually strategies for us to really understand whether we have certain or we have enough resources for our research. There is what we call the Boolean operators. So Boolean operators or the Boolean searching, it's a symbolic logic system that creates relationship between concepts and words. So Boolean operators is just a simple use of and or not. Okay? And, or, and not. So for example, if you want to talk about social media and business, so these are two variables, right? So we have social media, we have business. So you just wanted to search for these two key terms. So just simply use social media and business. So all articles relating to social media and businesses will pop out in your search results. So that's the power of Boolean operators. So in this case, I will be showing you a video of Boolean operators.
Hello.
Hi.
Can you help me, please? I've been trying to find research on my topic, and I can't find anything. I have to turn in my sources in an hour.
Sure, I'd be happy to help. What is your topic?
Advertising and elections. I've tried every possible search term, but I keep getting no results.
How about you go ahead and log into EBSCOhost and show me what words you've been using?
I tried negative advertising in elections, negative ad elections, and even advertising elections. None of them got me anywhere. See?
Okay, the thing is with our library databases, phrase searching doesn't work very well. So what you'll need to do is you'll need to use Boolean operators. It's okay, it's not that bad. What Boolean operators are is you take three different words, and, or not, and you use it to separate the terms in your phrase to get the results that you want. The most common one is and, where you'll be looking for this and that in a particular, for your subject. And say, for instance, that you were wanting to do a search on the cherry industry in Washington State. What you could do is you could do a search for cherry and Washington. But you'll also get, in addition to everything about the cherry industry, you'll get stuff with George Washington chopping down the cherry tree. So what you can do then is you can use another Boolean operator, not. So you can go cherry and Washington, not George. And then everything having to do with George Washington is going to fall away. There's even another Boolean operator, or, which you could use. So say, for instance, you weren't just looking at the cherry industry in Washington, you were looking at the apple industry as well. Then you could do Washington and cherry or apple. Or is pretty much used when you have two like words or when, you have very similar topics.
Well, that's good and all, but getting back to my topic, advertising and elections.
Sure, let's go back to the database. I have a couple of keywords in mind to start with. How about we do advertising and election? And you'll notice I put that Boolean operator and in there so that we get articles that contain both concepts.
Wow, that's great, but I don't have time to go through 1,200 results.
How about we go ahead and narrow the results by adding another term? What would you suggest?
How about concentrating on negative advertising elections by adding the terms and negative?
Okay, this is great. We've got 129 results right now, and we could probably narrow it down more, but how about we go ahead and start with these?
Wow, this is nice.
The next thing that you have to do is to locate your literature. And I know that there will be instances that you will feel overwhelmed. It's because sometimes the moment you search for a key term, a lot of search results will be there, like 1,000 search results, right? So how are we going to narrow it down? So usually our sources of literatures would be via internet and via the library. Now that we are facing the pandemic, the most viable way of looking for information would be via internet. So again, let's just go back to my tip to you that you just have to go to scholar.google.com for you to be able to research on relevant literatures. So usually these are online journal articles, website articles, and blogs, okay? If you're in the library, then usually your sources would be primary and secondary sources. Continuing the discussion for the locating of relevant sources is what we call the coding sheet for journal articles. This is not a step, okay? This is actually part of doing the locating of sources. So you have here the following: author, title of article, title of the journal, year/volume/number/pages, research questions, hypothesis, participants and sampling procedure, dependent variables, independent variables, research design, data collection procedure, validity and reliability of instruments, data analysis procedure, highlights of results or findings, limitations, recommendations, implication of your study, and potential useful citations. So in this particular case, the only time that you will be able to answer everything in the coding sheet is if you will be able to find a research or a journal that could be a good source of information for your upcoming research. Again, it should be a research also that should be your reference, okay? So the moment that you've located your literatures, This is now your time to evaluate your selected literatures. Of course, in the locating of literatures, you will feel that, okay, these are relevant already. I have 20 that I can use for my upcoming research or for the creation of my chapter 2. But you're not ending in just identifying or locating your literatures. You have to evaluate first your selected literatures. So here are your checklists, okay, for you to really assure yourself that this particular literature that you've located would be really relevant for your study. The first thing that you have to do is know whether the journal article is reputable. How do we know if the journal article is reputable? The first thing that you have to know is that if it's really a published one or not. Because usually those published articles that comes from a reputable source as well, or like website, it's understood that it is reputable. Second, read the article thoroughly and make sure it has complete parts. So how would you know if it has complete parts? Basic is you have the intro, you have the body, you have the conclusion. Sometimes internet gives you a free access to these sources. However, there are instances where you have to pay for you to really scan the entire book. Okay? So in any case that you have that, it could be something na you can avoid using as your reference and just look for other references that would support your literature review. And the most important thing that we have to understand is that it has to be very complete. So the coding sheet earlier that I've presented, it's a very useful tool for you to really understand whether your article has a complete part or not. Third one, it should be relevant, useful, and related to your review. If your topic is all about social media and business, you will not be including articles that talk about social media and mental health. Those are different concepts, okay? So just focus on articles that would support your study on social media and business. Also, part of your checklist is that you have to ensure that your literature must be updated. Sometimes it's just so hard to look for articles that are just new. Sometimes there are articles where, they are around the 1990s or something. We can still use it for as long as it is still relevant. However, we do discourage having literature reviews that are sourced from older than 15 years, okay? 10 to 15 years. 10 years and younger or 15 years and younger, we can still have it accepted. Also, part of your checklist would be ranking the gathered articles based on the degree of quality. All right, now we're done talking about the first three steps. Again, we begin with the first one, which is identifying your key terms. Second one is to locate your literature. And third one is to evaluate your literature. The fourth one is to organize your sources. Now that you were able to identify that, okay, these 10 sources are the best sources from my research, now it's the time for you to organize. How are you going to write down, or how are you going to summarize those 10 sources into a narrative? Okay? So the first thing that you have to do is group the literatures according to independent and dependent variables. Usually we begin by talking about your independent variable and the dependent variable the next. Second one is identify major themes and patterns in different literatures. What do you mean by themes and patterns in different literatures? Sometimes, yes, I know that these are different literatures. However, there would be instances where they can still be related to each other. So group those related arguments coming from different sources into one. One best example here would be like this. When you've searched or when you have identified like sources about social media and business, one article talked about how social media influences the buying intention of people. Second one is how social media changed the business landscape. So you can actually group these two. Even though they came from different articles, at least they talked about how social media changed e-commerce. Okay, so it changed the customer's intention, buying intention. It changed the business landscape. So the theme there would be change. So you will be grouping them into one narrative. That is what we meant by major themes and patterns in different literatures. Third one is state the relationships among the different studies. Best way of doing relationships would be in addition to, furthermore, according to this. Okay, that is how you build relationship. It's like you're telling that from these different articles, they are still related with one another. Sometimes there could be contradicting thoughts, okay, and it's still possible that it can still be relevant in your study, but it presents an opposite argument. Okay, there is this argument from another article and another one has a different point of view. Then you can actually match them and try to use relationship words like however, on the other hand, in contrast to, so those are words that you can use to build relationship from one article and another. As much as possible, you try to relate them. And when I say relate, it doesn't really mean that the other one should support the claims of the other one. If it is not that way, then you can still build relationships after all. You can say, however, despite the fact. So those are some words that you can use to associate relationships. Also, another checklist that you have is to identify gaps in the literature. Second to the last would be the use of table matrix or construct a literature map. I'll be showing you a reference, a PDF file that is contained in your flash drives for this particular literature map that I'm talking about. So just look at it. And lastly, synthesize the literature before writing the review. So what do we mean by talking about synthesizing the literature? The moment you have identified your top 10 sources, okay? Or top 10 or top 15, top 20, whatever. Your goal is that for every article, you have to synthesize it. When you talk about synthesizing, you will just simply get the gist of that article. For example, if that article contains 10 pages, your goal is to make it just into one page. Just state the points of that article. Sometimes the best way to do it is try to look for the abstract of that journal, and that abstract could already be the synthesis of your reference. Okay, sometimes that's a pro tip as well. Look for the abstract. Now that we're done doing or organizing your literature, this is now the time to write your review. It's just the basic essay writing, children. You just need to have an introduction, you just need to have a body, and you just need to have a conclusion for your review of related literature. So again, I will be sharing to you a PDF file in your flash drives, and just look at page 47 for you to check the checklist in writing the literature review. So now we're done talking about the steps. I hope that you get to have an understanding, a clear understanding on how to write your related literatures, okay? So again, you begin by identifying your key terms. You can use Google Scholar to search for available literatures. Second one is you need to locate, okay? You need to locate your literatures. Third one is you need to evaluate your resources. And fourth one, you need to organize it. And fifth one, you need to write your related literature. So now, the next thing that we are going to talk about is the citing of references. We'll be talking about what is reference citation. Reference citation is the process of documenting the various sources of materials and information relevant to your study. And there's what we call in-text citation. In-text citation, citing references as you write your research paper and creating a reference list. You are so familiar with this one already, okay? When you talk about in-text citation, in-text, it means that the moment you've borrowed an idea from an author, then you will write the idea, right? And then at the end of that idea, you will be placing parentheses and then his surname or her surname and the year that it was published. Sometimes the other way for you to do in-text citation would be using the words according to. According to this, tapos may parentheses and the year, okay? And the argument. it could be followed by that. And aside from that type of citation, you need to have a reference list at the end of your research paper. Okay, so usually it's found at the back part of your research paper. So it should be connected. The in-text citation that you have in the literature review, okay, should have a backup reference at the back of your paper. So what are the benefits of reference citation? It allows the reader of your research to have a more thorough examination of the study cited. You know what? It's really important that you are really writing the real links, the real references in your research paper. Sometimes instructors, okay, and readers are very keen when it comes to references. If they see that your research is very interesting, they will really go to your reference list and try to look for your references. So they will search that references online. Now that we're using Google, okay, as our source of information, then links are very important in references as well. So please be sure that you are really using the right link and your links are working. Second, it gives credibility to the literature review. Third, it acts as a safeguard against plagiarism. So again, these are the common types of citation styles. You use American Psychological Association or the APA style, the Modern Language Association MLA style, and the Chicago Manual of Style. So in this part, I will be showing you a video that talks about MLA, APA, and the Chicago Manual of Style. So please do watch the video.
When I started writing essays, I had no clue how to format bibliographies and citations. I'd never heard of citation styles or style manuals. So what I did was just find a journal article or an essay or a book and copied the citation style from that source. Eventually, I noticed that there were different citation styles, but I still had no clue why one was used instead of another. In this video, I want to give you a survey of the different citation styles that you might encounter in academic writing, and some tips on what styles to use and what style manuals you should have on your bookshelf. Let's start with the MLA style. MLA stands for Modern Language Association. It's actually a pretty recent citation format. The MLA style manual is only in its third edition as of this recording, with the first edition in 1985. This is the most commonly used style for academics working in the humanities, like English literature, literary criticism, media and cultural studies, and a hodgepodge of other arts disciplines. In the examples I used in the plagiarism videos, I was using APA style for the most part. MLA style is a lot like the APA style in that it uses in-text citations. But an important difference is that MLA uses the author page number system rather than the author date system. In this example, the quote is from a book by William Wordsworth, and the citation is Wordsworth 263, where 263 is the page number from that source. Here's what the source reference would look like in the bibliography, which in MLA style is titled Works Cited. Every bibliography style requires similar information: author, title, publication date, where it was published, and so on. But the specific formatting will be different in each style. Here, for example, the date of publication comes at the end, but in the APA style, as we'll see, the date comes right after the author's name. APA stands for American Psychological Association. The first APA style manual came out in 1927 and was designed to serve the writing needs of psychologists and anthropologists. But the APA style is now widely used across the social sciences, and there are branches of the humanities that use this style as well. If you were to write the Wordsworth citation in APA style, it would look like this. APA style uses the author and the date of publication rather than the author and page number, though page number references are often included as well, like here. APA uses more commas to separate the elements of the citation than the MLA style does, and it uses that P. preface to indicate page numbers, where MLA doesn't require this. A student once asked me why APA uses the author date system and MLA uses the author page number system. I hadn't a clue, so I went and researched it. The basic idea, as far as I can tell, is that there is a presumption about what kinds of information are most important for someone writing in the humanities versus someone writing in the social sciences. In the social sciences, more often you're citing the conclusions of the most current sources that bear on your work. So the date of publication is emphasized, and details of where in the source the quote is located less so. In the humanities, on the other hand, it's assumed that your work is engaging with the ideas of other writers that appear at specific places in their works. So the precise location of the ideas within a given work is emphasized more than the date of publication of the work. All right, moving on. Here's what the bibliography entry would look like in an APA formatted paper. Here you would title the bibliography References rather than Works Cited. And notice that you only give the initial for the first name of the author, and the date follows in brackets. Okay, our last citation style we'll look at is the Chicago style, sometimes called CMS or CMOS, after the initials of the Chicago Manual of Style. It's named after Chicago since it's been published by the University of Chicago Press since the first edition came out way back in 1906. The Chicago Manual of Style is a beast, almost 1,000 pages long. It's not just a style manual for essays. It also has sections on editorial practice and English grammar and usage, and it covers style and format issues for all kinds of publications, including books for non-academic audiences. The Chicago Style Manual is also used for some social science and humanities journals, so you might see this used in places where you'd otherwise see MLA or APA style used. Luckily, for students who need help writing research papers, there's an excellent and much shorter style guide, written originally by Kate Turabian in 1937, that basically compiles all the relevant style rules that students would need to know. The book is called A Manual for Writers of Research Papers, Theses, and Dissertations, and it's been periodically revised over the years by various teams. This is sometimes called Turabian style, but it's really just the Chicago style edited and compiled for undergraduate and graduate students. What's distinctive about the Chicago style is that it supports two different reference styles and supports the mixing of those styles in the same publication. When most writers hear the term Chicago style, they think of a sequential numbering, notes-based citation system, like the one illustrated here. The citations are numbered, and then the source information is given either in a footnote at the bottom of the page or an endnote at the end of the document. With this system, you can avoid having a separate bibliography section altogether. One of the advantages of a system like this is that the page isn't cluttered with citation information, and it can make for a more pleasant reading experience. Now, although this is in some respects the stereotypical Chicago-style system, the Chicago-style manual also supports inline citation styles like the MLA and APA styles. So it gets complicated explaining what makes the citation style distinct. For example, here's a citation system that the Chicago style also supports. On top, you've got a paragraph with some standard in-text citations. You've also got a reference to a footnote, footnote number 6. At the bottom of the page is footnote number 6, and in it you've got some commentary. These are sometimes called discursive notes to distinguish them from footnotes that just contain source information. And in the commentary, there's another in-text citation. And all of this is supported by the Chicago Manual of Style. So you can see that it encourages flexibility and mixing of citation styles, which can come in handy for different purposes. Okay, that about wraps up this introduction to citation styles. Here's the summary table. What I would recommend for any student is to pick up a copy of a good style guide suitable to your discipline, because it'll make life easier for you in the end. Just Google any of these style names and you'll get lots of online resources.
All right, so the next part of our presentation for this session would be discussion of the ethical standards in writing the literature review. So we will be using Samuel Adams' quotation in 1777. Give credit to whom credit is due. So again, when you borrow something, you have to acknowledge that it's being borrowed and it's not something that you own. Okay, we have to avoid that, especially when you are doing academic research papers. You know what? There is this news in UP Visayas. We know that University of the Philippines is very fond of doing academic research, as they even fund your research if they see it as very beneficial for the community. However, it's really sad that there's this professor who actually committed plagiarism, that his book actually is a plagiarized one. So just imagine the sanctions he just received. It's actually being investigated by a committee in UP Visayas regarding that incident. So just be very careful when it comes to making your paper, okay? So what are the ethics? So what are the ethics that we should remember when we do research? Acknowledge the source of information. Using the in-text citation also and the reference list would help. You have to avoid plagiarism. So how do you avoid plagiarism, you might ask? you just summarize the works of others. That's the reason why part of the organizing your thoughts prior to writing your review of related literature is that your 10 articles should be synthesized first prior to doing your related literature. In that way, you will avoid plagiarism. There is this tool, okay, in on the internet that you could use to check whether your work is plagiarized or not. I've been using that actually for the past years. As a teacher, it helps me identify the students who actually plagiarize the works and not. The moment I found out that their work is plagiarized, like the minimum score, okay, for a not plagiarized work is 80%. So the moment you score 80% and above, then that's okay. 100% is really good. However, when your score is lower than 80%, then I automatically make it 0, because that is like saying that most of your works are plagiarized. Do not just copy tables, figures, and words of other authors. You may, for as long as you get to give them the credit, you get to provide the source. For example, you have this table coming from the Philippine Statistics Authority, so you will be copying the table, okay, of the PSA. However, below that, you should be saying source, Philippine Statistics Authority. To what particular program of PSA did you get this? Okay, so what was the event that they had this table? So you just have to explain their source, okay? Philippine Statistics Authority, the year, and what was that particular moment when they had this table. Also, recognize ideas, theories, and original conceptualizations of others. Be critical in the studies that you will include in the literature review. So you are lucky though, in any case, that somebody might not care about your references. However, most, if not all, would really look at the reference list that you have and ensure that your work is not plagiarized after all. So this is going to be the last part of our discussion for this week. So I will be leaving an assignment as well, which is also uploaded in your Google Classroom. So kindly check your assignments there, and for the other instructions for your assignment in week number 3. So thank you very much, guys. In any case that you have questions, please feel free to chat us on our official Facebook chat group, and just leave your messages there. Thank you very much and have a great day.